We have the guy with the kitty cats. Patrick Gavin is joining us with this morning's Politico Playbook. Patrick, good morning.
Good morning,
let's start
everybody.
with Jeb Bush, who caused a little bit of anxiety within the Republican peak when he suggested that his father, perhaps even Ronald Reagan, remember this, would feel uncomfortable in the party's current climate. What's going on?
Yeah, I'd be curious, especially to get Joe's take on this. Craig Shirley, historian, has an op-ed in Politico today and a friend of the show, in which he kind of takes Jeb Bush to task, which very few Republicans do, for those very comments, saying, first of all, Craig's not a big fan of these what-if scenarios in general when it comes to doing, these what would Reagan do type scenarios. Number two, what he's saying, in fact, is that, number one, that what the Republican Party criticizes most about itself right now are politicians who don't stand on principle. Ronald Reagan did that. Ronald Reagan was a great communicator. Mitt Romney's not necessarily a great communicator, so perhaps Ronald Reagan would do very well. And in general, I think Craig Shirley's big critique is that attacks like this from Jeb Bush are kind of what we're seeing from the Democratic Party right now, which is too much intra-party fighting, which is not what the Republicans need right now. We're seeing this really from some various corners within the Republican Party, and what Craig is saying is enough with this Reagan talk, enough about wondering whether or not Reagan would win. Now, Craig Shirley actually thinks that there's a good case that Ronald Reagan would win in today's Republican Party.
That argument was made on the air. I don't buy it. What do you think's going on within the party? Everyone denies it, but I think very key people are saying it.
I was very close, not necessarily personally with Jeb, but certainly when Jeb was governor of Florida, and we were in constant communication. I was a huge supporter of his. Jeb was one of the most conservative rulers I've ever seen, of governors I've ever seen. He fought on vouchers. It was a war. I mean, Tallahassee was shut down. He then did one Florida, which was a battle on affirmative action. He fought Republicans on spending. He was the conservatives' conservative. He remains the conservatives' conservative. The only point Jeb Bush was making was that govern, and you don't have a monopoly. You're gonna have to make compromises, the type of compromises like his father made in 1990, even though I don't think Jeb would have made that particular compromise. The type of compromise Ronald Reagan made in 1983 to save Social Security, the type of compromises we're going to have to make moving forward, whoever's elected president, if we're going to save Social Security, if we're going to save Medicare, if we're going to save Medicaid, if we're going to scale back our defense spending, and if we're going to prevent the United States from turning into another Greece. You've got to make compromises when you're in power. That was Jeb's point. These people calling Jeb a liberal or a moderate don't have any idea what they're talking about.
Wishful thinking. It's wishful thinking by the left.
Yeah, I mean, Craig Shirley is a great guy, and I think we disagree a bit on this one. But Reagan made a lot of tough compromises, and it was the right that was pounding Reagan. I mean, you remember, Richard, the right pounded Reagan.
Absolutely.
Time and time again, said he appeased the Soviets by striking grain deals with them, that he appeased the Soviets by doing peace treaties with them. I mean, Reagan was constantly being hammered, but he dealt with the Soviets, dealt with Democrats, and he still figured out how to win.
In Texas.
Jeb Bush also, clear views on immigration reform.
Yep.
Patrick Gavin, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.